Max's bark tore through the storm. Sharp, frantic, not his usual warning. Ryan froze. The shepherd dog stood rigid at the window, eyes fixed on the treeline. Ryan grabbed the flashlight and stepped outside. The cold hit like a fist. Max was already ahead, paws throwing up snow as he raced toward the fence. The beam caught something dark in the drift. A small body, half buried, barely moving. Ryan ran. Barbed wire glinted around a paw slick with blood. A wolf pup, no more than a few weeks old. Tangled, freezing, its sides lifting in shallow gasps. Max whined and pawed at the snow, desperate. The pup's eyes fluttered once, then closed. Ryan's breath came out in clouds. He didn't have time to think about the risks. Wolves' territory set. If he hesitated now, the little one would never make it to morning. Ryan crouched beside the pup, breath fogging in the light. The wire cut deep into its leg. Each tremor drew a thin cry. Frost whitened its whiskers. It barely breathed. A wolf this close to the village was unheard of. They hadn't come down from the ridge since the famine winter. If a pup were here, the pack couldn't be far. Ryan's knife hovered over the wire. His training advised against interfering. Wolves remember scent. Once you touch one, you're part of their story. Prey or threat, never neutral. But Max was already nosing the pup's fur, whining low, refusing to back away. That sound, a plea and a promise, cracked something inside Ryan. He exhaled, steeled his hands. "All right, boy," he whispered. "We save him." Ryan dropped to his knees, snow biting through denim. The flashlight flickered as the wind shoved against his back. His fingers were already stiff with cold. The wire was twisted deep, half buried in ice. When he slid the knife under, the metal screeched. The pup jerked, a weak cry catching in its throat. "Easy. Hold on, little one," he murmured. The blade slipped. He cursed softly, repositioned. Blood, thin and dark, welled against the white fur. Each breath burned his lungs. Max paced in tight circles, nose low, whining. Every time Ryan paused, the dog nudged his shoulder as if to say, "Don't stop now." It took longer than he thought. Each strand had to be pried loose, bent, twisted free. His hands shook, half from cold, half from fear of doing it wrong. When the last wire finally snapped, the sound was sharp and clean. The pup collapsed into his palms, limp, trembling, alive. He wrapped it in his coat, pressed it to his chest, and ran for the cabin. Inside, warmth and firelight hit him like rescue. He cleared a space near the flames and laid the pup gently on an old blanket. Its leg was raw where the wire had bitten in, the skin rubbed sore from the cold and strain. Ryan worked fast, heating water in a pan, rinsing away mud and grit until the wound showed clean. The smell of iron filled the air. The pup twitched once under his hands, a faint cry breaking from its throat. "Easy," he murmured. "You're safe now." Max settled beside the pup and wouldn't move. When Ryan tried to pull him away, Max growled. Not anger, a warning. So he let him stay. They watched the pup's sides rise and fall in uneven rhythm. Hours passed. Ryan stitched the wound, wrapped it in gauze, pulled the coat around its body, and fed it drops of water. Outside, the wind battered the cabin. Inside, the fire crackled, the only heartbeat in the storm. Near dawn, the pup stirred and opened its eyes. They found Max, who whined softly and licked its muzzle. The pup's paw twitched against the blanket. Ryan exhaled, dizzy with relief. "You're a fighter, little one." When morning came, the storm had finally broken. Ryan stepped outside, boots crunching on the frozen crust. The air was still. No wind, no birds, just the faint hiss of melting ice. Then he saw them. Tracks. Dozens of them, pressed deep into the snow around the cabin. Large, heavy, deliberate. He followed them with his eyes, circling the yard, crossing near the fence, stopping only a few paces from the door. Wolf prints. They had come in the night, silent as shadows. Close enough to smell the fire. Close enough to see inside. And then they had turned back. Ryan's breath fogged in the cold. A chill ran deeper than the wind. They hadn't come to attack. They had come to watch. And they had waited. Wolves didn't leave tracks that deep unless they meant to be seen. Inside, the pup whimpered. Max rose, standing guard. Ryan whispered, "They're out there. For him or for us." He waited through the night, rifle by the door, untouched. The fire sank low, shadows shifting across the walls. Max paced between the door and the pup, silent, certain. Dawn came pale and still. Ryan stepped outside, boots sinking into snow. Tracks circled the cabin. Dozens, maybe more, all facing inward. None crossed the fence. He crouched. The wolves had come close enough to smell blood and smoke. Then stopped. They'd waited. When he turned, Max stood in the doorway, tail low but wagging once. Inside, the pup was awake, trembling as it crawled toward the light. Ryan knelt beside it. "You shouldn't be moving yet." But the pup kept whining, small, broken sounds that were more call than cry. It was reaching for something only it could sense. Max gave a single bark, low and sure. Ryan looked between them, the wounded creature of the wild and the dog who refused to see it as an enemy. There wasn't any thinking in what he did next, just pure instinct. He sighed, hand on the latch. "All right then." The door creaked open. Light spilled across the floor, and the cold swept in, sharp, alive, endless. The pup stepped forward into it, trembling but unafraid. Then the pack emerged, gray shapes sliding between the pines, silent as smoke. Their eyes caught the light, amber and cold. Breath rose from their muzzles in pale ribbons that hung in the air. At the front stood the alpha, tall, one eye scarred, her coat silvered with frost. She stopped at the edge of the clearing and watched. The pup stood in the doorway, trembling, caught between two worlds. Its paw sank into the snow. It looked back once at Jake, then at Max. "Go on," Jake whispered. "She's waiting." The pup whimpered and limped forward, one step then another. The pack stayed still. The alpha tilted her head, waiting. Halfway across, the pup stumbled. Max barked once, low and steady. The sound bridged the distance. The pup lifted its head and kept moving. At last, it reached the alpha. She lowered her muzzle, breathed in its scent, and pressed her nose to its neck. The pup sagged against her, trembling, not from fear but recognition. For a moment, the world held still. Then the alpha looked at Jake and Max, eyes wild, clear, and almost grateful. Max stepped forward, tail low but steady. Wild and tame faced each other in the same pale light. The alpha's ears flicked. She bowed her head once. A single howl broke the silence. Not threat, not warning, but belonging. The pack moved. Shadows slid through snow and mist. The alpha turned, the pup at her flank. Within moments, they vanished, tracks swallowed by falling flakes. Jake stood still, breath clouding in the cold. Max sat beside him, tail sweeping once through the snow. That night, the storm returned, softer now. Jake watched from the window, Max asleep at his feet. Beyond the ridge, a lone howl rose. Max lifted his head and answered with a quiet bark. Jake smiled. "Guess they remember." The wind carried one last echo, a fading note of gratitude in the dark.